everybody, welcome back to Experience Points, a less formal, more laid-back sort of video series where I talk about games that I've played a little bit of, but have not yet finished, and today I'm taking a long overdue look at 8-Bit Adventures 2 from Critical Games. 8-Bit Adventures 2 is a game that is currently on PC. It came out this year on January 31st or so, and this game is great. It is a follow-up to 8-Bit Adventures on Steam, which I think looks a little bit like maybe an early NES game. It looks like an attempt at like a 8-bit retro vibe. This game though, 8-Bit Adventures 2, looks like a late stage NES title. One of those games that really pushed the NES to its limits, and it visually is phenomenal. And one of the very first things that drew my eye to this game is the fact that the protagonist of this game, Charlie, has just about the best hair you ever did see in an indie RPG, and that just appeals to me directly. I've been told that any resemblance is purely coincidental, but alright, I'll let it slide this time. But 8-Bit Adventures 2 came out earlier this year. It's from Critical Games. This game has been phenomenal to me so far. I'm about 5 or 6 hours in, and I'm actually really hooked on this game's story. I think you'll definitely want to check this one out, guys. If you haven't heard of it, you don't need to have played 8-Bit Adventures 1 to enjoy it. I would know because I haven't played 8-Bit Adventures 1, but I am thoroughly invested, despite the fact that this game does feature characters returning from 8-Bit Adventures 1. In addition to Charlie and a few extra people that I've had in my party so far temporarily, I've also had characters who I named after myself, my wife, and Baku in my party as well, and those are the 3 protagonists from 8-Bit Adventures 1. So this game has just been pretty wild so far. The whole concept really is a little bit meta, a little bit funny, but it doesn't stick to the humor at the expense of drama and telling a really interesting story. At least so far. Let's reel it back in and tell you that the story starts with Charlie, who's living in a castle. Basically, he's kind of living in this walled garden, but he was actually brought in from the streets thanks to a favor to the protagonist, the hero thief from the previous title, who took Charlie under her wing early on. So, after having saved the world, I guess, in the last game, she had some favors with the queen, said, alright, here, put these people under your care, make sure that they're educated, and Charlie really wanted to live up to being a hero. He just wanted to train and learn sword fighting and stuff, and Charlie is a pretty interesting character who overhears that something's going on with the protagonist from the first title, and they've got to go rescue him. So he stows away on a boat to go out on an adventure with his hero, the Lady Thief. There's so much more to it than that. This game feels really nicely paced. It skips a lot of the things that you don't want to have to deal with. For instance, we got to this port town. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to go to this port town and charter a boat or something. That's the boring stuff. And no, instead, Charlie just like walks into the town tile and then he walks out, or a boat rides out. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just skip all of that thing where you have the annoying side quests that you have to do in order to get the boat fixed or whatever. I was really afraid that this game was going to lean a little too deeply into those retro RPG tropes, but it knows when to keep the pace moving. The way that the game shifts focus from the original party from 8-Bit Adventures 1 to the new party of 8-Bit Adventures 2 keeps things moving really fresh and keeps them from getting stale, in my opinion. I think that that's been really great. The game itself has a story that I think I mentioned before is a little bit meta, and I don't think I want to spoil that too much to you right now. I think you'll want to probably play it a little bit. It might even be a spoiler for 8-Bit Adventures 1, so I really don't want to talk about it too much. But I will just say that it is not just called 8-Bit Adventures for the namesake of it being an adventure in a 8-bit style. There is more to it than that, and I think that you'll really want to check this one out. And I haven't even talked about the combat system of this game, which is extremely interesting in my opinion for a game that bills itself as an 8-bit adventure. It's got some 16-bit mechanics, if you know what I mean. This game has a combat system that is not just a standard Dragon Quest style turn-based system, although it does have some of that going on, but instead it also has some turn order stuff that you can see on the side that you can use you can actually manipulate how quickly your characters attack and things based off of if you're hasted or not. But also this game has different kinds of unique abilities for each character that you have in your party. Like I had this blind girl in my party for a short while who was able to do some pretty cool martial arts abilities. There's the protagonist Charlie, who has the ability to use 2 attacks against 2 different enemies at the same time without any additional cost. But he does also have special abilities that he can use AP in order to use that also will do extra damage to individual characters. There's the thief protagonist from the previous game that I mentioned earlier, who also has the ability to steal items off of enemies. The male warrior protagonist, who has the ability to attack at 3 different power levels and 3 different corresponding accuracies. This game has a combat system that is honestly a joy to use, because it's not just attack, 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 attack. There's actual reasons for wanting to use different abilities at different times. There's a lot of resources. The AP does not just regenerate all the time. You feel like you've got to ration out your ethers and stuff so that you can heal yourself, for instance. There's a lot of balance going on here in the system that I've really been enjoying, and I just can't wait to see what else this game has in store. Another real standout of this game is the 8-bit music that is included, and it sounds like an original NES sound chip. I don't know if they actually used real chip tunes from an NES to make this game, but it would not surprise me in the least. It sounds really phenomenal, and in every way that the original game kind of looked a little bit like an early NES game, this really sounds and looks like a game that was made in the late stage NES, and that means that the composer sounds like they've really got a handle on the sound chip. It sounds like the graphic designers really know their way how to maximize the use of their pixels. Now, I don't think that this necessarily conforms specifically to the 8-bit color palettes of the NES or the restrictions of numbers of colors per sprite or whatever. I don't know if it does that, especially in the text. I think that there's a small thing with the text that might not look perfect on a CRT television, just like the spacing of maybe the period from I don't know. It could be perfect though. In fact, this game has a integer scale option for the pixel art. So basically, I think that's even by default, is it will not fill your screen entirely. It will use the nearest integer scale so that it doesn't have to do any soft smoothing or anything on the pixel edges to give it that nice crisp look. And that got me thinking that this might look really nice on a CRT television, so I'm going to be actually putting some gameplay on my Sony PVM in order to see what this looks like, and I hope to include some of that in today's video. And man, if it looks anywhere near as nice on the CRT as it does on my computer, I can't even imagine. This is such a pretty looking game on my computer. I feel like they've really nailed the overall 8-bit adventure aesthetic, and I really hope that it fits nicely on that CRT television. And as far as performance and things go, I haven't encountered any bugs. The game feels like it plays really smoothly, and because it is sort of an 8-bit adventure throwback style RPG, it really shouldn't be too taxing or demanding. So I suspect that even a laptop built 10 years ago should be able to run this game just fine, but obviously I'm testing it on my own computer, which is a bit more beefy than that. But I don't suspect that there will be any issues, so I wouldn't hold yourself back. If you are in the mood to check out this game and you don't have a console, by the way, I think it is coming to consoles eventually, but for now it is a Steam exclusive, so if you don't have a super beefy computer, you could still play this, or you could wait for the console release. Makes no difference to me, but I think this game looks great, and I hope you don't sleep on it. Anyways, that is about it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.